So moving on to the current legislative and policy landscapes internationally. So questions about human germline modification, the medical implications, the social consequences, and the ethical considerations aren't being addressed now for the first time. They've been under discussion for decades at this point. Back in the 1990s and early 2000s, when debates on human cloning were raging, human germline modification was debated in a number of jurisdictions around the world and led to laws being passed in more than 40 countries that prohibit the modification of genes that are passed down to subsequent generations. And this includes nearly every nation with a significant biotech sector. So these prohibitions were primarily put in place out of concern about safety, human rights, and the potential for what has been called a high-tech eugenics that would exacerbate existing inequalities. Most, if not all, of these prohibitions do allow for somatic gene therapy, and it's only germline modification that they outlaw. So they thus draw a bright line between somatic gene therapy and germline interventions, whereas the first is used to treat people who are sick and is widely supported worldwide. The other is an effort to genetically modify future generations and is widely opposed. So a number of important international instruments make strong statements and or prohibit interventions in the human germline as well. UNESCO's 1997 Universal Declaration on the Human Genome and Human Rights acknowledges that, quote, the human genome underlies the fundamental unity of all members of the human family, as well as the recognition of their inherent dignity and diversity, and in a symbolic sense, it is the heritage of humanity, end quote. So its Article 24 asserts that germline interventions could be contrary to human dignity. Going further than this, Article 13 of the Council of Europe's 1997 European Convention on Human Rights in Biomedicine, also known as the Oviedo Convention, explicitly prohibits interventions seeking to introduce any modification in the genome of descendants, stating that, quote, the alternative would be to jeopardize the inherent and therefore equal dignity of all human beings and renew eugenics, disguised as the fulfillment of the wish for a better, improved life. So on to more recent conversations. Today there is still widespread international agreement against human germline modification for reproduction, but the advent of CRISPR-Cas9 only a few years back has led to renewed discussion and evaluation of this. In a 2015 statement, the Council of Europe reaffirmed Article 13 of the Oviedo Convention, and a 2015 UNESCO International Bioethics Committee report similarly reaffirmed this, and it updated its reflection by recommending a moratorium on genome engineering of the human germline. And UNESCO further stressed the importance of international cooperation, okay? Asserting that states and governments should, quote, renounce the possibility of acting alone in relation to engineering the human genome and accept to cooperate on establishing a shared global standard for this purpose, quote. In December 2015, an international summit on human gene editing was organized by the U.S. National Academies of Science and Medicine in collaboration with the Chinese Academy of Sciences and the UK Royal Society. At the end of the three-day event, the summit organizing committee issued a statement asserting that it would be irresponsible to proceed with germline modification unless and until a quote-unquote broad societal consensus had been reached. So the statement called for, quite lengthy, an ongoing forum that should be inclusive among nations and engage a wide range of perspectives and expertise, including from biomedical scientists, social scientists, ethicists, healthcare providers, patients and their families, people with disabilities, policymakers, regulators, research funders, space leaders, public interest advocates, industry representatives, and members of the general public. So as you can see, it's really all encompassing. So since this time, there have been a number of meetings that evidence the ongoing importance of the issue. In January 2016, the European Group on Ethics in Science and New Technologies released a statement recommending a moratorium as well, extensive international public debate, and examination of the blurred lines between therapeutic and enhancement goals. Mexico is also currently working towards becoming a signatory of the Oviedo Convention, meaning it would also be agreeing to the prohibition included within the Oviedo. And while Japan has a de facto ban on germline modification because of a 2001 cloning law, it's currently considering developing policy that explicitly bans this. A number of workshops have been organized as well by ethics councils of many countries, particularly in Europe. And most recently, Harvard's Program on Science, Technology, and Society last month hosted a workshop on gene editing entitled Editorial Aspirations, Human Integrity at the Frontiers of Biology. So while many of these have maintained the bright line between somatic and germline modification, a few have notably pushed the line further from whether human germline modification for reproduction should take place at all to whether it should be used for medical purpose or for enhancement. So for example, a recent document produced by the University of Barcelona's Bioethics and Law Observatory recommended considering the use of gene editing for human reproduction in certain medical cases. And in February 2017, just a few months ago, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences and Academy of Medicine, in a dramatic divergence from their summit conclusions about broad societal consensus just 1 year ago, published a report that recommends that human germline editing for the purpose of treating disease should go to clinical trials with certain restrictions. So in a go-it-alone gesture full of American hubris, and despite being couched in cautionary language, this report represents the first time that human germline modification has been given a green light anywhere in the world, and thereby blatantly disregards the long-standing international consensus that interventions in the human germline should remain off limits.